Well, this week, fashion's most spectacular event returned, as anyone who is apparently someone gathered in Manhattan for the Met Gala. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, sorry, Klavan, what were you saying? I dozed off after the word spectacular. One moment I was listening to you blather about fashion, then suddenly I was walking through a sky blue emptiness, decorated entirely with pictures of my mother, and mysterious voices were revealing all my secret sexual fantasies, so that suddenly I started screaming, just a minute, this isn't heaven, this is the other place. Then I woke up and you were talking about celebrities or something, so what the hell is going on? All right, that may not be exactly what you were thinking. In fact, maybe that's what I was thinking. Or maybe that was reality, and this is the nightmare. In which case, let's get back to the Met Gala. Every year, rich people who seem to think highly of themselves for no discernible reason gather at the Metropolitan Museum of Art to desecrate its wonderful art collection by dressing up like idiots and then posing and flouncing around for the cameras like idiots who are also pansies, but still idiots. These are the individuals whose fabulous glamour holds our cultural elites in fascinated thrall, while the rest of us are watching Shane Gillis because at least he has some talent, so we know why we're looking at him. But of course, the Met Gala's biggest attraction are the amazing outfits that show off how God gifted these women with beauty and these men with homosexuality. Famous designers go to the absolute limits of their lack of talent to create dresses for women who have absolutely everything except the simple dignity to cover themselves when they go outside, lest they be exposed as narcissistic exhibitionists with nothing to contribute to society besides an inappropriate glimpse of their supposed to be private parts. This year's prize for least amount of modesty went to Kylie Jenner, who simply sent her bare breasts to the gala while the rest of her stayed home watching Temptation Island with a Budweiser Select 55 bucket wing. Madonna arrived, shrouded in black as if she were dead, which really wasn't all that shocking until the EMTs showed up to carry her out to the hearse and she started shrieking, wait, I'm still alive, which surprised everyone. Doctors examined Madonna and declared that yes, she was still alive, so only her career should be buried. Sarah Paulson, who was very famous for I have no idea what, bought her $100,000 ticket out of her $12 million net worth in order to wear a dollar bill mask to protest wealthy people by dramatizing the fact that money is blind. Paulson made a dramatic entrance until she walked far head first into a low-hanging water pipe, reeled backward and smashed into a wall, then stumbled to the very brink of a descending stairway and murmured, maybe I should have put some eye holes in this dollar mask before she tried to walk away, but instead somersaulted down the stairs into the museum's Egyptian wing, where she had a flirtatious chat with a man who'd been dead for 3,500 years. Singer Stevie Nicks was also there. Nicks recently revealed she was glad she had had an abortion because if she'd let her child live, there would have been no Fleetwood Mac. Nicks wore an outfit with a large empty space in the center to show the place where her soul used to be. Cultural elites were also delighted to see their new favorite celebrity, White House Correspondents' Dinner attacker Cole Thomas Allen. Allen, wearing an elegant orange jumpsuit, was released from jail to attend the Met Gala after DEI Judge Zia Faroukhi apologized for having him locked up when all he'd done was try to shoot the president. And let's face it, who hasn't at this point? All in all, the fashion spectacular was a sparkling and glamorous reminder that even the mightiest nations ultimately succumb to corruption and produce an elite class so useless and perverse it drags a civilization that was the labor of centuries into a hellish oblivion. But at least they dress badly. Trigger warning, I'm Andrew Klavan, and this is The Andrew Klavan Show.
All righty, there you have it, folks. And I'm sorry that usually when I start this video, my camera and microphone, gets turned on, but sometimes, and I wasn't paying attention, I apologize for that. I had to start it manually. So let me go back here and explain to you, since you didn't hear what I said. This channel I created. Actually, let me come back here and let me read Uncloudy's comment in case you didn't catch that. Murtak, on my Rumble feed, there's a registered Rumble user who uses your name and image to post Barbie videos. The fake channel is called Murtek News Update, and I've clicked it a few times. Okay, well, that is my channel. And the reason that I have a second channel is because shortly after I started my daily news update channel, I wasn't able to sign on. This was, back in uh, 2000, right after the Donald Trump got the election stolen. I started my Rumble channel. So it might have been early 2001 that I started this Smurtech News Update, and I was posting videos on it until they got my original channel fixed. Then I went back to it. I've got 412 followers, and yes, I do post Barbie videos on here. My kids love Barbie videos, and there's a little bit of subtle humor involved in this, associated with this. You might want to check it out. I mean, they've stolen scenes from, not the actual scenes, but the words that's used in Star Trek, The Godfather, Jaws, other movies where they steal, parts of their dialogue and use them within Barbie's dream house. It's kind of humorous. It's a little funny, and the kids love to watch it. Although some of that humor doesn't apply to them. I mean, they've never seen those movies, but if you're older and seen some of those movies, then it'll bring a smile to your face when you hear it. Okay, with that being said, let's jump back here and move it up to the 9 minute and 1 second mark. Okay, here we go.
So off exclusions apply. Chapter 1, our story so far. Every now and again, I like to stop a little bit, pause, and just recap what I think is unfolding in this moment in our country and in really Western civilization, because I think it's a big deal. And I don't think we can understand the news unless we put it in the context of what is happening. And since many of the things I've told you, almost all of the things I've told you have ultimately become realities, I think this is a way to prepare for what's happening. So we know we're not watching what we think we're watching. We're watching something real, but it's taking place in this bigger context. So as I said, we're going through this period of transition, and it's a power shift. It's a vibe shift, as they say, but it's really a huge cultural transition that is sort of like the transition of the 1930s that marked the end of European dominance in the West and the rise of America, the American superpower. And transitions like these are always marked by fierce ideological debates for the simple reason that the center disappears. And the reason the center disappears is that's where the shift is. That's because the center has been the social standard or the social imaginary, whatever you want to call it. And now it's exactly the thing that is fading away, right? It was fading away in the 30s because Europe was essentially dying from a point of unbelievable dominance. And the center is what is going away. And so there's all these, this is when the people come out from under the woodwork, and I would say some of them come out from under rocks, spreading radical ideas. So in the 30s, of course, it was Nazism and communism. And these transitional periods, for the same reason, are always tumultuous. And we have to hope, and this is a big hope, we have to hope it won't be as catastrophic as the one in the 30s, which ended with a horrific world war. But there are frequently wars during times of transition. Today's transition is brought on by, for one thing, this is part of it, this is about half of it, is the passing of the baby boom generation, my generation, which, basically imposed its idea of the world on this country for almost our whole lives, really, almost since, the people older than me came of age. This country has been the baby boomers' country, and we did all the wonderful things. We spent all of our forefathers' money and spent the country into massive debt. They just announced that our debt is now higher than our GDP, which almost always precedes, by the way, a nation's destruction, or at least an empire's destruction. It happened after World War II, but that was just because of the expenditure on war built into the structure of our spending, the so-called entitlements, which is why conservatives are always banging on about entitlements and why it's very hard because nobody wants to give up his free, pull. Everybody wants that free stuff, which is not free. It's been stolen from somebody else and given to you wrongly. So it's very difficult to get rid of. So it's a perilous time. But the baby boomers had to spend all that money in order to make ourselves look virtuous in spite of the fact that we were only out for ourselves the whole time. We made ourselves rich. We made ourselves comfortable. We did everything for us, but we made it look like we were doing it for virtuous reasons. So the country tried to pass the baton to a new generation in Barack Obama and discovered he had nothing new to offer, really, but the old socialist and anti-colonial ideas that have ruined every single society they've ever touched. So he fell back on the race baiting, and that's really what came out of his presidency, aside from more of a greater surveillance state and a stronger Iran. So we went back to the boomers with Trump and Biden, who sort of represent kind of the living embodiment of the unspoken values of my generation, left and right? It's destructive, self-hating, blindly sanctimonious leftism on one side, and it's belligerent common sense on the other side, not to mention our foul mouth and our bad manners, which we cultivated carefully. And at the same time, that transition, the transition of the baby boomers dying, was taking place. The internet was invented, and this is the biggest advance in communication since the printing press. There's no doubt about it. It's not I don't think, an arguable idea. There's nothing that has transformed the way we communicate with each other like the internet, except the printing press, even though there have been other big communication differences. And it had the same effect of the printing press, which is that it shattered the monopoly of thought held by the powers that be. When the printing press was invented, that monopoly was kind of held by the Roman Catholic Church. But now it's held by these leftist cultural elites who have just dominated our culture forever, really, since I was a boy, because even in the time when we were more unified as a country after World War II, the country was center right, but the media was really kind of, more toward the middle, drifting to the left. And the people in the media certainly were to the left, and certainly in the academy and all that. And all of the centrists are now gone, and the left has dominated our culture for 50, 60 years. And now with the internet, that was shattered. And it's just the same, in the old days when the church lost its grip on this monopoly, and I'm not passing value judgment on this, I'm just saying this is what happened once the printing press came along and a guy could print up his, 95 theses and spread it around all of Europe, all of Christendom, there was going to be some trouble. You couldn't set fire to everybody. You couldn't, bring everybody into the Inquisition. It was going to mean that the Catholic Church had to let go. And individual actors in diverse places sprang up who then became new power centers. And that's exactly what's happening under social media. We're suddenly able to challenge the idea of the powerful cathedral of leftism. And just like the church fought back, and sometimes badly and wrongly, with inquisitions and censorship and all this, which was doomed to failure, that's what the left, clerisy, has been doing now. And once again, back in the day, the transitional period led to a bloody warfare, the 30 Years' War, which was one of the most, it's not written about very much because it's very hard to understand. It has so many different moving parts, but it was a horrible, bloody war that involved all of Europe. It was almost a world war. And we're hoping that won't happen, but you can see a pattern developing here in these transitional periods, and it's a dangerous time. And there always comes a point in these transitional periods where the outcome becomes clear. You see which way it's going, even though one side or the other hasn't admitted to it. After the horrific 30 Years' War, this is in the 17th century, in the 1600s, there was the Peace of Westphalia. And Ben and I are always joking about how often we make reference to the Peace of Westphalia. But everyone agreed that basically we weren't going to fight over religion anymore. Each principality, whatever the prince's religion was, that was going to be the religion, right? And that marked the moment when it was clear that Protestantism wasn't going away, the church was not going to regain its hold over Christendom, the Roman Catholic Church. Religion was going to be more personalized. Atheism was going to become an option. That became clear really right about then. And look, some people, you can look at it all kinds of different ways. Knowles thinks it was a tragedy that the Catholic, so did many Catholic writers, but Knowles thinks it was a tragedy that the Catholic Church lost its monopoly over thought. Some people think it was the wonderful triumph of Protestantism. I think personally that it was the will of God. I think God, for his own reasons, which we don't fully understand, thought it was time for the church to fragment, and I believe he'll one day bring it back together, and it'll have a new form, but it'll have the old forms within it, right? I think that's what I think is happening, but what do I know? I'm just a barefoot teller of tales. Anyway, the Peace of Westphalia was one of those moments when the result of this transitional period became clear. And likewise, in the 30s, when the Soviet Union and the U.S. basically divvied up Europe, and the Yalta Conference, which I'm sure you've heard of, which was Stalin and FDR, and they sort of said there's going to be Eastern Europe, there's going to be Western Europe. It became clear that whatever else happened, the British Empire and the dominance of Europe were over. That was not what was happening anymore. It was a new time of superpowers. So I believe that it's possible that the re-election of Donald Trump was a very similar moment. It was a moment when, as I've said this ever since the day it happened, it was a moment when the rebel media, the individual media, the social media, the internet media broke the grip of big media, big academy, big Hollywood. They did everything they could to stop Donald Trump. And if it hadn't been a guy as durable and stubborn as Donald Trump, then it wouldn't have happened. But with him doing it, and with Elon Musk, and this is another thing I feel God sends the people whom he needs to do what he thinks is going to be done, what he feels should be done. And I think that was a moment when we saw, oh yeah, we can take these guys. Yeah, they're an empire. They're the empire of lies. But little guys like, upstarts like the Daily Wire and like Joe Rogan and all the others, can make their voices heard, and people will understand that they've been lied to, and Donald Trump will win no matter what they said about him.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and pause that there. All righty, and this video will be in my daily news wrap-up, so you get to see the rest of it. I'm at like the 18, almost 19-minute mark in this 1 hour and 21-minute video. So, I have to agree with him. I mean, when Donald Trump, his first term, they were beating the hell out of him on the mainstream media and the Democrats, and I couldn't understand how he could handle it. He always came out and stood tall and told them like it was, and now he's telling them like it is more now than he was then. Sometimes he can be pretty crass, but, look what they've put him through. And look what they're still doing to him. Everything he does, even though it's turned out to be good, it's good for the country, good for the economy, good for the people, getting crime off the streets, closing down the border so that we don't have tens of millions of people coming in here needing housing, causing the housing and rent costs to skyrocket. That's what that is, okay? And he's trying to put an end to it. And they are dragging their feet on things that he wants done and needs done. Not all of them. John Thune is, okay, and others. But, I have to agree with what Andrew Klavan says. He's absolutely correct. Let me click on this Rumble link and show you that this video does come from Andrew Klavan. This is the video I shared with you. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. All right. Let's jump back here and see what X22 has to say. Mr./Mrs. X, people are no longer following the deep state stars. People are rejecting the rigged system, episode 37. Let's check it out. This is Rumble Premium, but I have Rumble Premium, so I can share this with you. Let's go.
I would like to welcome Mrs. X.
Hey, everyone.
So we just had the Met Gala, and it seems like it's getting crazier and crazier every single time they have it.
Sure is.
And they're dressing up in wacko outfits, and it reminds me of the Hunger Games of the Capitol. I think we're approaching that period of time.
That's what it looks like, honestly. It's really, it's just amazing how much it's changed and how much, because when it started back actually in 1948, it was really, it was socialites. It was like socialites of New York, and people were in their evening attire. You were in like formal wear, like if you look at pictures too, you can look it up, but you can Google it. It's like they have like tuxedos, the women wore evening gowns. It looked very classy, and they would do things like it was raising money for like, I think some of the exhibitions in the Met, but it was like at the Waldorf Astoria or something like that. And then in the 70s, it started to change when they had the a different chairperson, and it got a little more. She started to the person, I think it's Diane something. I'll have to look it up. She basically started to invite some Hollywood people in the 70s, and I think it was just to give it more clout, to give it more like, people want to see it, to draw more attention to the event. And then really where it really started to change was and what it wasn't like it is now. In the 90s, Anna Wintour, the editor-in-chief of Vogue, took it over, and that's where and then now it's like you don't get into that event unless she invites you, even though it's $100,000 a ticket, and a table for, I think for 10 is like $350,000, but she has to invite you. She has to approve your guest. Like the list is, she gatekeeps it. Like she does it all. But the interesting thing about some of these costumes, and really, it looked like a Halloween party gone wrong. I mean, they couldn't even walk in their dresses.
No,
like,
they couldn't.
I don't even know how they sat down at a table and like, or went to the bathroom. Like it's so outrageous. Look, I love fashion as much as the next person, but it doesn't even look good. A lot of it. It just looks like everyone's just trying to outdo each other to be more and more outrageous, like you're talking about in the Hunger Games. But it felt very like strange. Like, I mean, honestly, I didn't watch it or anything when it was happening. I just kind of saw it the next day, the images. And I just don't know what we're doing here. And then you just see these
Most
dressed.
of the outfits looked like they were satanic. Demonic.
It was supposed to be based on like artwork or something. Like it was like art through costume or something like that was the theme. But like some of it, like Beyonce, it's like a skull, it's like skeleton, like it's like a skeleton rhinestone dress, like, and then Rihanna. I mean, these women are so beautiful, but it looked like a garbage bag that gone wrong. I don't even know. And then Katy Perry like had a thing over her face, and then the other person, that actress, I don't even know who it is actually. I didn't even know. She had a dollar bill over her face, right, because she was protesting the 1%, like the billionaires. Meanwhile, she's worth $12 million and was wearing
she just paid money to go in there
and wearing a couture gown that was probably at least 50. I don't even know how much her gown was, but she was wearing the couture gown. And then you're going to be, like screw the establishment, like these millionaires. I'm like, you're all at this bougie event with the elite supposedly. And I just feel like everyone needs to get over themselves. I'm so sick of Hollywood being like, oh my God, capitalism sucks, but come see my movie. And like, you spend your hard-earned dollars so I can be a millionaire, but you hate capitalism. Like it's so moronic. I can't with these Hollywood people.
Why don't they do it for free?
Exactly. Well, you know what?
That's what's funny about this. They want the money. They love the money. Yes. They love the hardworking people to get the money to give it to them.
Yes.
And then they complain about all the money that they have.
Yeah.
I mean, really, that's what they're doing.
I know.
But I think it's this club that everyone's in, and they have to do certain things, because you have to remember, the reason why they hate capitalism is because these people have been boosted up. They've been put on a pedestal. And if you do what the masters say you must do, they reward them with money. So it really isn't capitalism for them, because again, listen, just like The Rock, he was there in a dress. There's a reason why he's in a dress. I think this is part of their ritual to remove his masculinity and make him do things that normal people wouldn't do. So if you still want to get roles and if you still want to belong, you must do this and shame yourself in public.
I wouldn't be surprised.
No, I'm telling you, that's what I think is happening.
Lady Gaga that wore like a meat dress one time to some event or some music awards or something. Right. And I think it's almost like, how far will you go? If we say jump, are you going to say how high, or are you going to say, no, I'm out, I don't want to do this?
Well, if you still want to get work. I mean, think about it. Let's break this down.
No, you're right.
Look at these crazy people that dress up in these outfits, that do, the men wearing dresses, or they come out in drag or whatever at the award shows, or come out naked. We've seen that before.
Yeah, we have.
Then look at the conservative actors. What do you see as the difference right now?
Well, the conservative actors aren't getting work.
Why not?
because
Why aren't
they're not
right,
following the playbook.
They're not right. They're not following the club. They're not going to those certain parties where they're questionable
things happen.
and they are staying on the outside. So those people do not get work. Those people that go along with the program, they get work. And remember, going along with the program is not capitalism to them. That's why they hate capitalism.
Right.
Because again, they're not working hard. Someone is saying, listen, if you do all these things, we will reward you with roles. We'll continue to do this. Those people that don't, you get nothing.
Right. It's like making a deal with the devil.
Right. That's pretty much what they did.
That's really what it is. And
Yes.
I just feel like, and it just shows the disconnect, and that, I think Hollywood is less relevant than it's ever been. Honestly, that's my impression, because I think people are getting over the fact, like, we don't care. And we also don't want you encouraging our children and influencing them with your weird cult demonic crap. And that's what it is.
That's the other part of it. That's what they're doing. They're brainwashing the children, thinking that this is normal.
Yeah. And there's nothing normal about it.
Right.
I'm sorry.
This is why the ratings for the Oscars and the Emmys and
Yeah.
all of this is why the ratings continually drop, because they're not on the same page as the everyday American. There's a disconnect now. And it's getting, the disconnect is moving further and further apart, and they're completely and utterly out of touch with the American people and reality.
Well, because what they do too is that then they get up there and they don't just say thank you for my award. Then they go on their political rant speech and try to be like the moral high ground police and tell you what you should think and what you should believe, when that's not the time or the place. It's not a political event. It's an awards show. And I just feel like, who are you to tell me anything about how to believe politically about or how to raise my family, when you're sitting there on your pedestal getting rewarded to play pretend? I mean, look, I love a good movie as much as the next person, but you're playing pretend here, and you're getting awarded for it. Like, I mean, it's not like they're out on an oil rig, like, sweating their butt off, like working hard for the American people or whatever. They're not serving their country in a fighter jet and on a mission, for the Navy or the Army or, with Secretary Hegseth. You're playing pretend and acting like you get to come out there and tell me like how to live my life. I don't get it.
This reminds me of, like, when you're in school, you have the theater kids. The theater kids are dressing up. Now, not every theater kid is bad.
Nobody's bad.
If you look at the conservative theater kids, they don't do these things. But these are the ones that I think they're a little mentally ill, and there's a disconnect in reality, and the deep state players, they're able to take advantage of all of this. Because don't you find it strange that all of these people that are getting the jobs, they start out okay, and then all of a sudden they shift and they start wearing the costumes. All of a sudden they're non-binary. They're raising their kids, in a very odd way, where they're changing their sex. If you notice, all of them have that's what they continue to do, because again, I think this is what they've been pushed into doing.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and pause this one, and I've copied this into my daily news wrap-up, so if you want to watch more of this ridiculousness, and they're talking in plain English, they're telling it like it is. I mean, it's ridiculous, how they hate billionaires. They're multimillionaires themselves. Maybe it's not the hatred, maybe it's the envy that they have of them. They're jealous of them. Okay, let me click on this Rumble link and show you that this video does come from Mr&Mrs. X. This is the video I shared with you. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Okay, let's jump back here, and Foxy Grandma gave me a little chat here. She just got back from Arkansas. Well, Foxy Grandma, our family goes down to Arkansas. You visited your son. My wife's sister lives in Arkansas. In fact, I took her to the airport this morning. She came up last week from Arkansas and visited with us, and I took her to the airport to fly back to Arkansas this evening. She lives in Viola, Arkansas. It's about 30 miles south of the Missouri border. So right there where West Plains is. if you go through West Plains and go south from West Plains, it runs through Viola. I think it's 61 maybe, the highway. But at any rate, we're glad you're back. Had a safe trip, I hope. Okay, let's jump down here to ACLJ Sekulow, American Center for Law and Justice, Trump primary revenge tour ahead of midterms. Okay, let's check this out, see what they have to say.
Redistricting throughout major states, but obviously primarily it seems like in the South, we're talking about Florida, Texas, Louisiana, Tennessee, Alabama, and Mississippi. We have Florida, where they'll be adding 4 Republican seats. Well, in Texas, they'll be adding 5 Republican seats. Louisiana, 1 to 2 seats. Tennessee, 1 seat. And look, Tennessee is already one of the reddest states in the country in terms of the map here. Alabama, they'll be adding 1 seat. Mississippi up 1 seat. And remember, the law pretty much ruled that it doesn't matter if it's partisan, it doesn't matter where the politics land. If it represents the people, that's how it should be, and they can make that decision, and the voters can't decide that.
We know gerrymandering has been going on for decades.
Of course.
It's nothing new. And the statement was made that the reason we're in the situation we're in now has been made by the Democrats trying to isolate certain racial segments and things like that. If that is true, then would this be the downfall of kind of like the Democratic Party and winning things now that they can't use racial profiles to win?
We've seen states where it looks like there is a pipeline, or it looks like there is a river being cut through for their district that's clearly intentionally made to keep out Republican voters or keep out conservative representatives. If you've been to some of these states, you know that it's not as one-sided as it feels. Look, a state like Tennessee, it's pretty red. Okay, I'll be honest. We live in Tennessee. You have Nashville and Memphis, the actual epicenters. Maybe they are moderately blue if you actually broke down the issues that people cared about. But in terms of the mass majority of the state, it's a pretty red state. Florida has changed rapidly in the last 10, 15 years. Have you seen such a mass, if you say, migration to Florida to become this sort of epicenter of freedom, as they call themselves, the free state of Florida? So does this just represent them? That's a bit of a question that you can have for sure.
It's now become a game of politics, just as you have mentioned before. And because of the fact it's become a game of politics and where your chess pieces lie, everybody is just being used as pawns to be shoved into one district or another. And then it comes down to the point to where, are they actually working for the people? Are they actually doing things for the people? Or are they just trying to do things to get themselves reelected for the next term?
Yeah, I mean, that's always a big question. It's one of the big concerns in politics in general is honestly the whole reelection cycle, everything that people have to go through. I've been kind of one of those weird advocates that says, I kind of wish the presidency was a 6-year, 1-term deal where you didn't have to spend half your term worrying about reelection. Because we know after 2 years, pretty much nothing gets done until that president gets either reelected or booted out. And it's sort of a shame that the machine has to operate that way. Now, do I ever think that this concept will work or will happen? I think it would work. I think it would change the entire landscape of politics. But do I think that will ever happen? No, I don't, because there's too much money being made in those reelection campaigns. There's too much money at stake to have such a broad term. And people don't like change, and I understand there's some of that. And you can see that even with some of the redistricting here, that some people are concerned about it. But again, if you look back at the history of this is now just Republicans playing a bit the game that they have been pushing against for a while and embracing it. Look, I think that you could say that for mail-in voting, that Republicans took a very negative anti-mail-in voting stance. Not to say that was the wrong stance, but what did it cause? We saw the results of what happened in 2020. Now you have them at least embracing it a little bit more. You have embracing social media more. As we know, you have someone like Mondami who has been able to, I don't care how you feel about him politically, and of course I disagree with him on almost everything. Not only a gifted speaker, but is a guy who understands and has a team that really understands how to utilize TikTok, how to utilize Instagram, how to connect with people in different ways. It's no different than that in some ways, which is, again, playing the cards that are being dealt. And if the Supreme Court says this is what has to get done, then maybe it's time for us to start playing those games too. Maybe it's time for Republicans to start playing those games. Maybe it's time for Democrats to start playing those games, for Christians to say, this is what we think. There's a lot that can come out of something like this. And you may have a bigger divide in the nation where you will have really, really definitively red states, and you'll have really, really definitively blue states. And that is a bit of a shame. But look at Republican voters in Tennessee. You still have 30% or so of the votes, 40% of the votes on a presidential campaign, sometimes more, that will vote for the Democrat. It's not like even the most separated states where you feel like, yeah, that's dominated. If you saw a map of just Republican representation, it would be almost all red. It doesn't mean those people don't exist. And how do we work and live with those people? I think it's very easy to do that. I think it's something we should always be crossing party lines, discussing, having real conversations about. Politics should not get in the way of everything. But I'm also not blind to the fact that this is what happens when politics starts getting played at a very different level. Rules are made, and they're going to jump on them. And you may like it, you may not like it, but it is what it is. One of the Rumble comments said we need to use the Democrats' playbook. No more, we can do it better because we are better than them. I think that is a tough pill to swallow for a lot of people, including even myself, to go, hey, do you now just play by the rules that are set? Now, with the Supreme Court ruling, that does change it even for me a little bit. Because before then, you could say, okay, now we're just sinking as low as they are in terms of doing this. Well, the Supreme Court ruled and said this can happen. Look, I understand. I'm a realist in that sense of saying, now it's politics. Now it's game on. And hopefully, sure, we'll see better results. We'll see better results, and you'll have good representatives across the country. Now, of course, it's focused a little bit more on the South right now.
What is the nexus between the Voting Rights Act, all this redistricting, and what the Supreme Court just did? It's just a question. I didn't call with a comment, just asking for a little education.
No, sure. And look, I'll be honest with you and say that I'm not the most educated on every detail in this. But what I will tell you is look, let's just call it what it is. You had a lot of politics being played by states like Texas, even. We'll say that. And by California. The Supreme Court had to rule. And a lot of this is, look, a lot of presidents-backed candidates are winning. We're seeing that happen. And the Republicans want to secure the midterms. And now there's a new way to help that. Again, that's why the discussion has come. Do you play by these rules or not? Do you like these rules or not? Or do you just have to understand you're playing by a new playbook and it is what it is? It essentially says that they're allowed to redistrict based on partisan politics. They do not have to redistrict, by the way, based on the color of someone's skin. In theory, that sounds like the right thing to do. How the map lays out, we're going to see. And we're going to see what the fallout is from it as well. I think we have to stay on top of this. I told you when this started happening in other states that I wasn't sure how I felt about it. I still don't know how I feel about it. But I do know what the Supreme Court has said, and I do know that sometimes the game of politics is not going to be played by people who want to play fair. They are going to play it, and they're going to use it to the best they can to win. It may be a sad reality, but it is a reality.
All right, there you have it. Let me click on the Rumble link and show you that this video does come from American Center for Law and Justice. This is the video I shared with you. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. All right, I thought that was, interesting dialogue about, with the gerrymandering, as they call it, of these different districts in different states. I mean, whatever, the Democrats started it for sure. And the Republicans are trying to catch up, and the Democrats don't like it. That's why they're throwing fits about it. Okay, let us see what Wendy Bell has to say on Weekends with Wendy. Let's check this out.
Good morning. How is everybody? It's a beautiful day in Pittsburgh. Beautiful day. We're going golfing. Brock and I and Bobby and Chris are going golfing today. This is going to be kind of a gift from Brock to the twins for graduating. And so it's going to be a great day. I love it. What are you guys all doing? Anything fun? Hopefully. Brock slept in today. Thank you very much, Jay Milligan. Thank you very much. Oh my gosh, do we have a lot to talk about, Brock? I don't want to waste any time. First of all, So Brock and I both have friends who go into the clouds and down into the rabbit holes a lot more than we do. And we would say if we're on a scale of how deep into the hole we are, Brock is further down than I, just knowledge wise.
I would say I'm probably a 5 to 6.
Yeah. I'm probably at 3. Right. I'm probably a 3, but
Yeah,
I wait for him to digest it and then give it to me, and then I think about it for a while, and then you and I chew on it. So this alien stuff is very interesting. I see it on both sides, right? Like I can see one side, and then on Friday I read you that article about Werner von Braun, who was like, don't fall for this stuff. It's a big cover to keep your eyes off of some weapons game in space, right? Star Wars or what have you. And I'm like, so what does everybody think? What do you think? What does everybody believe is going on? 'Cause I would not be at all surprised if they showed us images of alien individuals. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be like, what? Because it hasn't affected us. It's not like I've been affected by it. So I'd be like, yeah, I could see that, right? But Brock, you think there's something more at play here? Do you?
My friend, who's very spiritual,
Mhm.
said that he thinks they're slow walking it because people are saying it's going to test people's faith. So we probably had yesterday a conversation for an hour and a half,
Wow.
and just shooting the BS. But he was saying how they think it's going to test people's faith, and I says I don't understand that logically, and he started talking about the theology of it, that I said, because a lot of you guys will go after me, maybe not you guys, but people in the stream will go after when I say how could it test your faith, and you only believe the Bible, and God created man. And he explained it to me, and I was telling him that, and I said, oh, a lot of people in our stream are very religious and faithful, and they believe in the Bible and God created man. He's like, yeah. He's like, but God only created one being in the likeness of himself, which is us. That's why there's fish and dogs. Those aren't in the likeness of God. Only we are. So to say that he's very logical like I am. He's like, so to say there's something else not out there, it would it's just not the being that was created in the image of the likeness of God.
Okay.
He's like, so we have the God DNA, as he called it. So he dumbs stuff down for me. The God DNA.
Got it.
Which provides us a soul. And apparently, for the rabbit holes he's gone down and talked, reincarnation has happened over a life. For as long as life has existed, there has been reincarnation. With the soul, with his explanation, the soul is you were able to be reincarnated, but bring that knowledge up alongside
the next chapter.
So you would elevate yourself as a being, and being able to transcend to the next level, because I've already made that mistake. I know I'm not going to do that again. So he says that and this is what we always do, aliens, reptilians, whatever you hear, whatever you call other beings, don't have the God DNA, and they want the God DNA. So they're not necessarily hostile towards you. They want the God DNA. And Matt Gaetz has talked about the merging of species, so he's like
breeding programs.
Yes, he's like that is what he believes, which makes total sense to me. It's like
what could possibly go wrong? I mean,
right.
Honestly, what could
right? It's fun. It's like I always say.
Hopefully, we're paying for it too.
this is
That's interesting.
this is very
It's interesting.
to just try to think outside of the box. It's something I said on Friday. Just because we don't know the math, it's very short-sighted to say that the math doesn't exist to be further along, with
I think there's a
technology.
lot. I think there's a lot of stuff going on, and I think that as we read in that article about the cure for cancer, or this research that back in the 1950s they knew were treating this like this, parasites and this, and they reacted the same way to ivermectin, la la la. Like I believe that we are needlessly suffering. I believe that there are developments, advancements that have been known for a really long time that are the secrets of all secrets, because so many industries are connected to them financially, from pharmaceuticals, everything involving hospitals, your entire medical system, your entire science system changes, right? From that healing, all of this stuff. If you're well, if you're active, if you're doing stuff, you don't need. My son Jack was telling me yesterday, he brought it up out of nowhere. He was talking about antidepressants and how one of his friends, one of the side effects of antidepressant use is erectile dysfunction. So he knows boys who are in their 20s who walk around with Viagra. They have some like fast acting Viagra sort of medication. So if you should happen to be romantically involved with somebody, you could actually get it done. And I was like,
Dude, that would depress me.
I'm like, what?
I'm depressed now.
Right? And he's like, I'm so glad that you and dad never fell into that psychological trap of my kids are being, they don't sit still. They're making a mess. Like, we've medicated kids because we don't want to be parents, because we don't want the responsible of actually doing the time. I learned about doing the time that summer. I took away their electronics within 20 minutes of summer vacation. That was probably the hardest summer of my life, because they were everywhere. They weren't allowed to watch television. They weren't allowed on any devices. They didn't have phones yet. And so they got nothing. And they played all summer, which was messy and dirty and loud. And it was the best summer of my life.
And I'm surprised you didn't have more bloody noses and broken bones.
They're not really like that.
But not fighting wise, but like because you got to amp up the
pogo stick Olympics.
Yes,
the pogo stick Olympics. Where I'm like, I bet who's going to break their leg?
Can't jump, right? Like, who's going to jump off that ledge and land it?
But I mean, all of this stuff is connected, and if you're not needing of some kind of help, how many of you have written me and have been like, look, my wife and I own livestock. We've been taking livestock quality ivermectin since COVID. We've stopped going to the doctor because we don't trust them. And quite frankly, we're never, ever sick. And can I tell you that that's why? I can't, but do I have common sense, and can I put these things together? I can't.
Answer me this. Why do we give, and this is coming from that show, you all know this, why do you give Murphy HeartGuard? I'll tell you why you give HeartGuard. Because it kills parasites. Cancers, because of the story you have read,
reacts like a parasite.
It
reacts to these drugs like that.
It's a shame, because let me say this, why I think this SSRIs are a shame. Because you're never gonna learn what normal is.
Mm-hmm.
The minute you start taking
Which is
drugs,
why
you don't know. You don't know what your base level is.
I said to Jack, of all people to come out, it was Kamala Harris's stepdaughter, Ella Emhoff, who I've seen pictures of her where she looks lovely. And she's just gone, it's like this weird it's what the young woman of today does, this weird, hard spiral to the left with bizarre tattoos and just odd, I want to be different. Look at me. It's just odd. And I told him about her and what she was saying. And that's what prompted him to tell me this. And I'm like, you shouldn't have freaking erectile dysfunction as a 23-year-old. And if that's the side effect of keeping kids quiet and still, I don't want it. I have a friend whose son I don't know, and he's 12 because he's catatonic all the time because she drugs him. Oh, it's his ADA. Oh, he's on the spectrum. I'm like, no, you're a bad mom.
We're all
You're
on
a
the
bad.
spectrum.
I'm like, are
Well,
you
the
kidding
schools
me?
push this. The schools push this stuff now.
Well, Bobby and Chris went to a concert yesterday in Cleveland that they told me that I had approved them going to. And I was like, I'm pretty sure I would have remembered that. But they both said it. And I'm like, okay, do I have early onset? Am I
Okay,
Alzheimer's? And
I
then
don't
they
want
said
to.
that you said, Mom, you only remember things that are impacting or meaningful to you in that moment. And I'm
I,
like, I would have remembered if you had asked me that you wanted to go to freaking Cleveland for a concert. What?
Now, in fairness,
Yes, I would not have said yes.
in fairness, Wendy, I said to you last week, I
It is
said,
Mother's Day.
I know. I said, hey, Bobby says they're going to a concert on Saturday.
I don't even remember you saying that.
I said, I thought the prom was Saturday. You're like, yeah, the prom. I'm like, maybe it was spell check. And then you tell me Thursday, prom's Friday.
Oh shit. I don't know, you guys.
And I'm like,
totally.
I'm
So how
more
about
in tune
this?
with Wendy's boys than she is.
How about this? Across the street, there's a young couple that bought a house several years ago, and they've had 2 children there since. I don't know their names. She's very liberal. They have a, stop ICE from stealing our neighbor sign in the front yard. She was all Black Lives Mattered out and what have you. So I'm outside foostering in the yard, cutting the grass. And I turn off the mower to reach down and get something. And they're walking up the street with their kids. And she said, congratulations. And I was like, I've never heard this woman's voice. Again, don't know her name, which is terrible, terrible. I'm a bad neighbor. And I was like, and she said, your youngest sons are graduating. And she looked at me and she's like, that's got to be difficult. And I was like, you have no idea. No, she got it. Like in that moment, as just moms, she's like, this got to be hard. I'm really happy for you, but I'm sure it's difficult. Congratulations. And I'm like, happy Mother's Day. And she's like, same to you. And I was like, meanwhile, I've been sitting here judging this bitch.
You're a bad mom.
For 6 years, you're a bad mom. No, teasing, but I just.
And she was on the front yard right behind the hedges going, you're a bad mom.
Yeah, she was the one who snipped my Christmas lights, probably. No, I'm teasing.
Yeah, see,
I don't know.
No, we're going to go with that because that adds to the story. Maybe next time we won't snip my Christmas lights. No, it's. I just think it's a shame that they use these drugs on the kids because you don't you lose you don't have a sense of what your base is, what you're good at, what you're not good at, what you can handle, what you can't handle because you're comatose. Like, and then if you don't have a base for anything, it's gonna fall. Like, i.e., Emma or Ella of Emhoff doesn't know how to react when she is taking off the drugs. And newsflash, this is a drug too. Take that away from your kid for a week.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pause that there. But yeah, he's absolutely right. Take that away. There, that is definitely an addictive drug. So okay, not so much for me. Now this PC here, this laptop, yeah, I guess you could say I'm addicted to that because I'm on it like all day long, looking for things. I get up and fix the kids' breakfast and things like that, help out with lunch and dinner. But mostly I'm on this all day long, updating my site, looking for information to share with you guys. But yeah, the phone for the kids, and some of the kids don't even have a phone yet. They're like in elementary school in first and second grade. And then my 13-year-old, she's lost her phone because of her grades. She's not keeping her grades up, so we took her electronics away from her, and it seemed to have helped a little bit. But then my 14-year-old son, I mean, he is like addicted to it. But his grades are up. He's getting A's and B's, so, you know. But at any rate, I'm going to go ahead and pause this there. We're 16 minutes into this 1 hour and 2 minute video. This will be in my daily news wrap-up as well. Let me click on the Rumble link and give her credit where credit is due. All right, this video does come from Wendy Bell Radio. I am following her channel. I've given her a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. And let me jump back here and remind you folks that these videos that I'm sharing with you are videos that come directly from the producers. I have the links to the videos here in the description box, as well as a link to the producer's channel if you want to click on that and check out more information that they might have. And the videos that I've shared with you here are videos that I've posted on Murtech.com, where I have over 40 no-nonsense, common sense, logic and truth videos, the kind of information that you're not going to get from the mainstream media. Okay, I'd like to share all of this information with you, but unfortunately I don't have the time to do so, and that's why I've put together my Murtech Daily News Wrap-Up, where I have, it says here I have 20 videos in here, but I have probably about 10 or 11 hours worth of great information. Wendy Bell, we're going to take off where we left off. Same thing with Andrew Klavan and X22 Report. I got information from Devory Darkins, Black Conservative Perspective, McWater's Effect, On the Fringe, Greg Hunter's USA Watchdog, the Why Files, Barry Cunningham. Great information here, folks. But go ahead and take a break right now. Grab a cup of coffee and a donut, or a sandwich and a soft drink, or a beer, or maybe a nice glass of wine and some cheese, and meet me back here in about 15 minutes while I get this set up in Rumble Studio. But before we take off, I want to go ahead and share some information here with you from 1775 Coffee.
Still haven't tried 1775 coffee? Now's your shot. The 1775 starter kit just dropped, only 1,000 units. You're getting the bold dark roast that hits hard, the smooth medium roast, and the Vitality Mushroom coffee for clean energy and laser focus, no crash.
All single origin, small batch, toxin-free, and mold-free. Plus you're also getting a gold spoon clip because freedom isn't scooped with plastic. A frother strong enough to stir up your coffee and your mother-in-law's opinions. And a black 1775 tumbler.
$170 worth of coffee and gear. Yours for $99. This is for the ones who've been watching 1775 blow up on Rumble, wondering if it's actually worth it. Spoiler, it is.
Go to 1775coffee.com/studio and grab your starter kit before they're gone. Bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something, just like Rumble does.
Okay, I want to thank you all for being with me here tonight. Hopefully, I'll get to see you again later. My daily news wrap-up, 15 or 20 minutes. But thank you again for being here with me. Have a good evening, and may God bless.